And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone, Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. We're here to recap week 4 of FCS football action. We had a almost upset for Idaho. We had Montana surviving what appeared to be an upset against Western Carolina, plus a big win for Monmouth. All that coming up and more. Before we get to that, though, Sean, can you share with our listeners a quick words from our friends over at BetOnline?
BetOnline, the world's most trusting betting platform, your number one source for everything football. Sunday Night Football was the easiest bet of the year, Joe. You know what that was? Chiefs money line at minus 166. I should have put $10,000 on that game because there was no way Atlanta was going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. If you have a hunch like I do, head to BetOnline because they have every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Bet against the Falcons. Think you know your stuff? Get in on a $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200K. I know some of you are a little sick because the Panthers, I'm sure, were your pick against the spread, and they embarrassed the Raiders. When the game's over, head on to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack, poker, or unwind with one of their over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here.
All right, let's run around the water cooler so you're caught up when you're talking to your buddies about what you missed from this weekend of FCS football. First, we have got a disappointing game for Lafayette. 31-20 as they lost to Columbia?
Bye-bye Lafayette.
Damn, all right.
Sick of them.
Someone's a little enthusiastic.
They've been doing the runaround all year so far. I mean, Jamar Curtis still at 100 yards. But, Columbia has 2 quarterbacks in this game. Both throw for 2 touchdowns. Okay. Sick of Lafayette. And maybe if they bounce back, they can get some goodwill. But they've been weird all year.
I guess we didn't know this. We've been covering Lafayette since they became relevant for 9 months, and I didn't know I was doing a show with the biggest Lafayette hater on the planet.
Sick of them. Apparently
the nerds at Columbia can pull out this win. Another upset. Monmouth, 45-42 against FIU. Mr. Worldwide can't get the Panthers the win instead of the Hawks. The Monmouth Hawks are able to get this dub over FIU.
Yeah, the viral clip that everyone saw on Saturday was the insane forced fumble strip at the goal line while FIU is just waltzing in, which is, if you've watched a lot of FCS, FBS games, that's how it would end, with a Derek Mason slant pass that would eventually go into the end zone versus the FCS. But Monmouth said, no, today's our day. We've been showing big Derek Robertson energy all afternoon, and we're going to back our guy up and make a big stop when we need it. Unbelievable upset. Good for Monmouth.
Yeah, I love that for them. That's their first ever FCS upset. I believe what I was reading said that they've had 7 FBS matchups, so they get the first one over a team that's supposed to be far more competitive than they were on Saturday. William & Mary, they beat up on this collapsing Furman team, 34-24. Furman, the Paladins, they have been a huge disappointment. I think furthering that, we talked about this a little bit in the offseason, they got brutalized by the portal. I mean, talk about a team that everybody went around and just plucking guys. That's starting to show up. William & Mary, Bronson Yoder, toting that thing, playing good defense, playing good along the offensive lines. I'm not shocked that the Tribe is as good as advertised.
Yeah, Furman is in their dying star stage right now. Thought they might be a little rough at the beginning of the year. Didn't think it was going to be this evident early because they're a great program since we've been covering the FCS. They've always been strong. They've always fought. So now we're kind of seeing the other side of Furman where they're going to have to definitely start adjusting and rebuilding. But on the plus side for William & Mary, Darius Wilson and Bronson Yoder combining for 321 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Huge game for them. That's their bread and butter this year. They need to stick to it. I know there's concerns about Wilson through the air. Run the rock. You could win. William and Mary, if they run the rock like this, could win the CAA.
In the War of the Wheel. Look at that wheel. That's a
wheel.
Pretty sick wheel. There's no gimmicks. It's not embossed with some weird colors. It's not bedazzled. No stupid shit. This is a really classy wheel. Now, I don't know how aquatic either of these schools are. I don't know. Well, I'm talking about SIU and SEMO. This was the matchup that's the War of the Wheel. What were you going to say?
There's the Indian Sea, the Adriatic, and then the Southern Illinois Sea.
Yes, we forgot. We forgot that they're right near the ocean, something that we weren't paying close attention to. But still, the War of the Wheel goes to SEMO as they take advantage of a banged-up SIU team, 38-21. Our guy, Paxton DeLeone, has a big day, as I predicted on the last show. They get themselves a big ranked win. They were also heavy movers for me this week on my ballot.
Big time for me also. The SEMO made a big jump because SIU is not a team that is just driven by their quarterback. I feel like a dummy for flipping on the last FC Estimates picks, but I'm not that much of a dummy because SIU's standing quarterback, Hunter Simmons, 28 for 48. Don't love it. Don't love 48 pass attempts
with a
backup. That's maybe not exactly where I would have gone with it. But he threw for 341 yards and a touchdown. Could be a lot worse. So SIU not out of it completely, but SEMO flexed their muscles and said, yeah, we're the real deal, and we're going to start climbing up the polls quickly.
I promise that this is not a shot. Let's see if I can find...
Who are you about to attack that's going to be very mad?
I'm not going to. I saw a lot of South Dakota State fans that were a little bit upset over this. Where is it before okay, so the week 4 pick'em with Gary Reasons and Craig Haley, and I'm not taking a shot at Gary Reasons. This is just pure. This is as light. We take shots at people. This is as lighthearted as it could be.
Yeah.
Gary picked Southeastern Louisiana to beat South Dakota State. I think he was the only reason I'm bringing this up. He's the only person on this planet that probably picked Southeastern Louisiana to beat South Dakota State. Gary, I respect the hell out of you. I'm not taking a shot at you. I need to keep saying this. I respect you. But why did you pick Southeastern Louisiana? This was bulletin board material. You know what the final score was? 41-0.
Yeah.
They weren't even on the board in this game. Kirby Voorhees, though, had a huge game. Was he in Fat Stats?
He was in the Fat Stats.
I'll let you get to him later.
The South Dakota State fans are barraging me with the day that he had.
As they should. Tag Sean in any stat line you see, even if it's one carry for 2 yards. Tag Sean Anderson and let him know, hey, maybe keep this on your radar.
It does help. We have some interesting wrinkles in this week's Fat Stats as well. But yeah, reasons... That's tough. I get going out on a limb. I've gone out on a limb plenty of times. Joe's gone out on a limb. I don't think we've ever gone on the
No. Don't put me in the same bucket as you and Gary Reasons.
I'm not in the Gary Reasons bucket. I would have picked South Dakota State.
Well, how did you do an FC Estimates?
8 for 10 this week, jerk off.
We had all the same picks, so the only two that you, the ones you got wrong were the couple that we disagreed on. I would love, and can we, Craig, I don't know if you still listen to the show. I think you sometimes listen. Can we get a Gary Reasons and Sean Anderson pick them every single week, and everyone knows who to bet against?
Oh, no. I'm on fire.
I disagree.
I am scorching hot.
Strongly disagree.
Reasons had a nice sweater on during that graphic, though. I kind of want one of those.
I tell you what, he was dripped out. That's a great sweater. I got to give credit. Again, I'm not taking a shot. I respect Gary. Like, I respect everybody that we make fun of.
You should have heard what Joe was saying before the show kicked off.
All right.
If you want,
you didn't even know what I was doing until I pulled up the graphic.
You DM me, and I'll let you know Joe's real thoughts on not only Gary, but Craig as well.
Okay. All right. Now you're just making me out to be some villain because I said that you were bad at picking games. Yeah.
I'm not going to advertise what you said on the show.
I didn't say anything.
If somebody wants...
Quit stirring shit.
If somebody wants to send me a DM, they can, and I'll fill them in.
Nothing disrespectful was said. Sean just sucks at picking games, and then now he's got someone who made a worse pick than him. All right. Western Carolina versus Montana is the first game that we're going to get to. 46 Montana, Western Carolina 35. Quick I guess a housekeeping note, Cole Gonzalez may have suffered an injury, according to Western Carolina's head coach, on his non-throwing shoulder. I don't know what the severity timetable, too soon to really know what's going to be happening there. Maybe information comes out by the time this episode's posted. What was really, I don't even know the right adjective that I want to use for this, perplexing, is how, one, Western Carolina jumped out to a 17-0 lead and Montana chipped away. And they came back, they got all the big plays that they needed. Ayat had a really just nice flow of multiple drives where he was connecting with his receivers. I think what really stood out to me the most when I went back to rewatch this, it feels like, and it's uncharacteristic of Montana because they're very downhill, they're great tacklers, they usually don't give up a lot of time to quarterbacks to operate, and we know Cole Gonzalez is a great quarterback, but it felt like this Montana defense, and it's plagued them up until this point against North Dakota and against Missouri State, who they also almost lost to. They've been giving up a lot more splash plays, 20-plus yard plays, big completions, just general time in the pocket than we're used to seeing from a modern Montana defense. I'm not saying that this isn't correctable because at the beginning of last year, they were having some just general woes that they worked through and figured out. But right now, I think if there is just a little cause for concern for the Grizz, their defense does not seem like it's playing to the usual way that we're used to seeing. Time to fix it, plenty of time to get right, plenty of time to get locked in. This is an early test to really allow for those issues to be highlighted because you're going up against a really offensively sound team that's really well coached and that's going to attack those weaknesses. So now it's on film and you know what to fix.
Yeah, from the broad perspective, this was just a big drunk college football game, which everybody can get behind. But when you start going under the microscope, you see, how did Western Carolina get up 17-0? Well, Cole Gonzalez is a quarterback that's good enough. If you give him time in the pocket, he's going to find the right open receiver. Additionally, Western Carolina plays up to teams. They'll play down to a team, but if you are a favorite playing Western Carolina, buckle it up because you're going to get their full offense. You're going to get defense that's going to really try to shut you down and make a statement. They have been on the precipice of being a team to elevate into not like a permanent top 15 feeling or level, but they're right there, right on that little line between, oh, we're so close, and we keep on just getting snake bit at the last second. So if they keep on this path, Western Carolina fan, I don't know if I would say fans, but fan would be excited for. You know what? That's just some Heath residual. He's been nice lately.
Yeah.
But Western Carolina has really turned it on the last year and a half, I'd say, where you can be impressed with what their offense is doing. I mean, Cole Gonzalez, I'll bring him up again in fat stats, but him and DeAndre Tamares went off in this game, finding a guy, seeing that he's being successful. He went for 8 catches, 229 and a touchdown. You'll hear that stat line again. But that's huge. That's a monster game, especially against Montana, who doesn't like show up flat to games. They still put up 46 points in Montana's offense. I'm excited to talk about. But first, I mean, Western Carolina showing really good signs of life early in this season.
I think that's the best way to frame it. I know that they're probably the best 1-3 football team in the country. And I know that we were talking about this with other stats voter, Jamie Williams, that there's just not really many answers after you kind of get past 18 in the top 25.
Yeah, why do people get so mad about them?
I know. And
the last 7 spots.
It is, especially after week 5, and we actually talked about this last week on the show, or was it 2 weeks ago, that we're in a spot where there's clearly a line of separation between the top 18 teams and everybody else. I think that the separation between the programs that have investment from the local communities and the local recruiting hotbeds and all the other FCS programs that are getting pulled apart by the transfer portal, it is a very different era of FCS football. So we're just going to have a lot of trouble finding teams with good records right now. There's so few of them. Western Carolina, again, feels like the best 1-3 team. I took them off of my ballot because it feels really dirty to have a 1-3 team on there. But I think that they're going to ascend and going to regain their footing, and they're going to be in the playoff conversation by the end of the year. It does help them that if Gonzalez is hurt, that they have a bye week coming up, and then they face off with Wofford, where Wofford is a climbing team. They were ranked for me. I don't believe they're ranked for everybody right now. But if they continue to climb and they're a ranked team when you face off with them, that's going to be a quality win that will help you rebuild your resume despite being 1-3 right now.
For this week, I would have no gripes with a voter putting Western Carolina on or keeping them off. It was just such a crazy week for them. Montana, though, I mean, impressive fight back. Going down 17-0. We've been on the shorthand of looking at 17-0 pretty early on in a game and packed up the luggage. We were ready to start the buses. It's hard to climb back out of 17-0. But they did. Ayat just turned it on, ran for 4 touchdowns in the game. Hard running touchdowns, too. Getting met at the goal line. Real football. And then the run game, we've been saying it. It's what Montana needs to focus on. They have such an impressive 3-headed monster with Ayat, who's not afraid to put his head down and stumble forward into the end zone. Eli Gilman got Montana back in it with a massive touchdown run. Just burners. He's impressive. He went for 175 and a touchdown. And then, you know what's a luxury in football, Joe? Having a running back you can turn to that can ice the damn game. Nick Ostmo iced this game. Short yardage churner, able to pick up first downs when they needed it. Impressive. And then additionally, the balls that Montana had on that 4th and 4 pass with Logan Fife rolling out, awful play call. I mean, that's me, Paul George. That's a bad shot as it goes in over me for the Dame Lillard big time 3. It's a bad shot, but it went in. So that's fine. You take the dagger. You're only up 3 at that point, and then churn it out with Osmo. Like, they have all the pieces to be a real deep contender in the FCS. It's just not having these slow starts and trying to have a little bit more style points, I'd say, for Montana. That's the only thing that they're lacking at this moment.
I know some fans might be hoping that we would use this as the opportunity to come yelling and screaming, they stink, they're not that good, look at this is evidence. No, if anything, I always say when a team is not playing their best and they still find ways to win, that's impressive. It's more telling of a quality team with good chemistry than it is of one with fatal flaws. Do they have minor issues where they're allowing these splash plays that are really stressing their offense? They're just stressing the team in general, where they felt like they could have separated and put the game away, but they kept allowing Western Carolina to get back into it. The ability to stare adversity in the face, run the football well, chip away, take the lead, maintain the lead. Those are the signs of a good football team. I don't know, though, if they don't falter again this year. There's probably going to be another game on their schedule. Maybe it's Montana State because they're going to Montana State this year.
At Montana State. Yeah.
That might be the game. Maybe that's the game that they lose. They finish the year 10-2, and they're going to be still maybe not seeded, but a clear playoff team.
Yeah, strongest remaining. They're at EWU. They should beat them. They're hosting Weber, which people are high on. I'm still not that high on Weber. And
Weber
then
sucks.
Yeah, and then they have UC Davis 2 weeks before that final game against Montana State. So there's life. This is a monster win for Montana. Western Carolina showed up in the run and the passing game. They were on fire early, and Montana being able to ice it, it says a lot about that program.
We had talked about this being the game that we went to, and I'm kind of kicking myself that we didn't go to this one because this would have been a really fun one to watch. That was a mistake. Idaho versus Abilene Christian. Talk about drunk football. 27-24. One would have thought, hey, barn burner. This was a close, hard-fought battle. No, we were being told on our live show on Saturday night, hey, you guys, Idaho's going to blow a huge lead. The Vandals in this one, it's exactly as it sounds. 27-3 lead that Idaho had, and they could not finish off Abilene Christian. Credit to ACU for just sticking in there. MacGyver had a number of great throws, just huge plays that they needed to keep themselves alive. My main takeaway from this, I think ACU is a quality and is going to finish as a ranked team. But my main thing, not sounding the alarm, but Idaho can't play like that anymore. This is hopefully gotten out of their system. And what I'm referring to is that you get an interception up 27-3 to start the second half, finish the damn football game. End the game there.
Put it away.
For some reason, I had to keep watching as Idaho was running play action, not bleeding any of the clock, allowing the game to be as insanely long. It was one of the most ridiculously long games, it felt like, for how much they allowed given time to ACU to stay and hang around in this thing. And there were just so many drops. When you're not connecting on play action and you're allowing the clock to continuously stop, for the love of God, stop throwing the football. The minute that you know that's not working, just run the ball. It's, at least if you're running the ball and you're punting, you're taking time off the clock.
Right.
They gave ACU so much time. It was infuriating. It was kind of one of those games where you're sitting there watching, you're like, what are they doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you still trying to let them get back into it? It was almost deliberate.
Yeah, it's frustrating to see that a winning team, the best friend that they could possibly have on a football field is the clock. Losing team, your worst enemy is the clock because it's a finite amount. I got to give credit to Idaho. They took the top off early. I thought Jack Wagner started in a really good groove, 2:35-2 for him. I just think that the Abilene Christian quote from their head coach, Keith Patterson, after the game tells the whole story about how you should feel about Idaho and ACU. He called it the most frustrating loss in his 3 years as a coach. It should be, because when you have a door left open for you and you're starting to scratch and claw and scratch and claw, and then you really start, that's when you can't really sleep that well at night when you lose, because you start thinking about, oh, we really didn't need to have that door left open for us. If we did this, if we didn't do this, the 2 picks for McIver hurt them. Maverick McIver, credit for not giving up. Sorry, I just butchered your name.
Say that one more time.
Maverick McIver.
Maverick.
Yeah, I'll walk.
Alliteration kicked your ass there. Holy hell.
I'll take a lap on that one. But yes, Idaho got away with one in this game because they started coasting. Idaho is not a team that either of us expect to be a coaster. That's a guy that fights Joe and beats him up.
All right, I knew that was coming.
But look, they're a team that doesn't really have the privilege to coast because you have a backup quarterback still playing for you. Ice the game. You're good enough. Your run game is good enough. You like living in the chaos. Just put it to bed without the heart attack.
I appreciate Eck trusting Jack Wagner, but that's like the clearest thing. And I'm not trying to like question Eck's decision making here, but I don't know why, when you know your identity is playing really stout defense, turning the football over, and grinding out the clock.
Yeah.
They're going to have an easier time running the ball. And I know that some of that success wasn't really there to be had in the second half. They were completely batting down the hatches and not allowing anything to get through on ACU's end. But you got to at least try. There looked like there was a physical advantage that they had on their offensive line compared to ACU's defensive line. If they kept trying to go back to it, they eventually were going to find success. And one of the things that I talked about in the preview is that Idaho right now statistically is terrible on third down. Their percentage on converting on those third downs is not good right now. It is really struggling. So knowing that you're having problems on third down, at least eat up some of the clock. I don't think it's a major issue. I think sometimes teams just have these gross games where they make silly mistakes over and over again, and they're just not detail-oriented and fundamentally sound when it just comes to catching the football. They're going to outgrow this. I think it's just proof that you got to keep leaning on the run game.
I'd say this is a massive week of practice because they're at UC Davis next week, and they host Northern Arizona, who
they have
is...
a bye?
They have...
Week 5, they're playing...
This upcoming weekend, they play UC Davis. Then the next following weekend...
So the 20...
They play Northern Arizona.
It's the 29th?
What, when their bye is?
No, when they're playing...
the 28th.
28th, okay, sorry.
Okay, and then they follow with Montana State. Okay. That's 3 non-gimmies. Northern Arizona is probably going to lose that game, but Northern Arizona loves pulling some crazy-ass upset middle of the season that makes you think, what's going on with those Lumberjacks?
All right, Fat Stats, what do you got for us?
Wild week for Fat Stats. Let's kick it off here. We get fat at the alma mater.
I don't mean to cut you off. By the way, the Joe Flacco, whatever his name is on Twitter.
Yeah.
How did he remember us making the wacky play on a wacky day?
We've chronicled
reference.
it probably once a year, every year, especially if we're talking about a rain game or William & Mary or URI. A wacky play on a wacky day will come up.
I got to give him a shout out because that Joe, in quotes, elite Flacco, and he referenced the wacky play on a wacky day. I am stunned that he made that reference. Have we made that reference enough times that he would have remembered that?
I don't know if we have necessarily. This year, I don't remember going deep into the Nick Cardyism that happened during that game. I love that. I will always love Javi for making that play because how could he not be a part of the greatest broadcast call of all time? But let's get it kicked off. URI running back Malik Grant, 20 carries, 141 yards, 3 touchdowns. A little alma mater love, but you get 3 touchdowns. I'm going to give it to you on fat stats. Next up, Stonehill running back Jarrell Washington, 23 carries, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. Here's a fun one. Bethune-Cookman quarterback Cam Ransom went 22 for 31.
It's a great quarterback name.
It's an elite name. 382 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He carried the ball 11 times for 79 yards and a touchdown, and a loss to D2 Clark Atlanta. Unbelievable.
Dude, okay, by the way, for some reason, when I was watching the quad box on YouTube TV, it was Notre Dame, Miami of Ohio. This was the only option to get the Michigan USC game with Notre Dame, Miami of Ohio. I forget what the third one was, but this game was the fourth one. So I kept looking over and I'm like, what is happening in this game? It was so random. I didn't even know that we got the channel. Not a good game. Bethune-Cookman lost because they played really sloppy football. And I think that's painted by the fact that they lost.
Yeah, they lost. Even in a loss, I'll give a shout out, especially if it's in ludicrous fashion like that. It was a good stat day for Cam Ransom. Western Carolina receiver DeAndre Tamares, 8 catches, 229 yards, and a touchdown in the loss to Montana. Richmond running back Zach Palmer-Smith, 33 carries, 266 yards, and 4 touchdowns against the victims that they played. Mercer quarterback DJ Smith, 20 for 25, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. He also had a pick, but he ran the ball 10 times for 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. Look at that. Mercer's got an offense to go with their awesome defense. Tarleton, Joe loves Tarleton. Their running back Kayvon Britton graces the list again. 21 carries, 273 yards, 4 touchdowns. South Dakota State running back Kirby Voorhees, 3 carries, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns. A Randy Moss day, 3 carries, 3 touchdowns. Unbelievable. Stop tagging me. You
keep tagging him.
Incarnate Word running back Decalon Johnson, 17 carries, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. And to close it out, UC Davis Swiss Army knife running back Lan Larison, 28 carries, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught the ball 5 times for 43 yards and a touchdown. A nutso week with huge running back numbers and an awesome quarterback stat.
I can't emphasize this enough. Anytime you see any stat, ask Sean if he thinks it's a fat stat or not. Tag him and ask him. Anytime there is a tweet, tag him and ask him. Is this a fat stat, Sean? That's all I want.
I take submissions. I do. It's fine.
No. We're not talking about submissions. I want as many people to keep tagging Sean as possible. My pick, though, has to be Kirby Voorhees. I mean, that is ridiculous. 3 carries for 179 yards? Give the guy the ball more. Give this man the ball more.
Yeah, South Dakota State's churning them out. I'm going with Kayvon Britton. 273 yards and 4 touchdowns is spectacularly fat. Just an obese weekend, similarly to the one that I had at home with my parents, just eating all of their food. They had Halloween candy. I was eating the Kit Kats on Friday night. It was a great fat weekend, not only for me, but for the FCS players.
How did you get this kid, Kirby Voorhees, to come from Florida? I need to know what you offered him. Because there is no shot that he's been here he's a redshirt freshman, so he's been there for a bit. I don't know how he's not freezing his ass off.
Yeah, that's not really, I don't think that's thrilling, as we've seen many Florida players be very uncomfortable when October rolls around.
And that's in Rhode Island.
Yeah, South Dakota State is definitely chilly.
That kid's got to be tough as nails.
He's got to be on an all-Chislik NIL deal.
At Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio. 5-star review on audio if you enjoy the show. Leave us a comment on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, at Hack City Pod on Twitter. Appreciate everyone who's tuning in. We'll be back later on in the week with our preview.